Hello, and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow and become a better version of yourself. My name is Mark Allen, and together with my friend Adam, we share thoughts and ideas from the books that we read and how they enhance our personal growth and development. We also host other readers and leaders. We learn from their experiences through our discussions. Our episodes air every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening in, and let's grow together. Unbounded Growth. Hello and welcome back to Unbounded Growth. Excited to have you back for episode number 13 of our second season. As you know, it's the Black History Month, so happy Black History Month to all my people out there. For those of you who live within the borders of the United States, this is the month where we celebrate Black, we celebrate a lot of things. And also congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning the Super Bowl yesterday. I didn't have a chance to watch it, but I heard it was a good game. I think halftime, halftime they were leading. The Eagles were leading like by 10 points or something like that. And then, at the end of the game, I think I need to get into the habit of watching the Super Bowl.
Patrick Mahomes did the magic.
Absolutely,
it was amazing.
So as you know, we started a new series on leadership a few weeks ago, and it's been 3 weeks. And we missed a week. We had a storm in Dallas, and Adam took over last week. I was a little bit sick. My Achilles been bugging me. Also, was coming down with a very strong cold. And today you'll notice that I'll be on mute most of the time. Adam will be doing a lot of the talking, so that I don't be coughing in your ears and stuff like that, But he did a great job working and explaining on level 1 leadership. This is definitely a series that I do not plan on missing. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to learn in the 5 levels of leadership by Dr. John Maxwell. But I also want to thank you for your thought and prayer, your encouragement, and everything that people that have been texting me and stuff like that, and people that have been following you, my a book a week reading that I've been doing. I haven't been able to read in 2 weeks. That's just how bad I was sick, with the headaches and the dizziness and all that. But feeling better, so getting back into the game. And we are going to start with the second level of leadership today. We talked about the first level last week, that was position. And today, as Adam promised, we'll be talking about permission, which is relationships. And then we talk about the advantages, the upside, the downside, and then what are the best behaviors you can have in a position that can help you move into the production level and away from the position level. My name is Mark Allen. I'm your host, and I'm here with my friend and co-host, Adam Shebindo. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well, Mark. To have you back after last week. It was it's interesting recording alone, something we've never done before. But we tried to step up when it was needed the most. And been getting really great feedback about it. That was really great, and we're just really happy and really glad to have you back.
It's a pleasure to be back. I'm still struggling a lot with my cough, but it's getting better. I know Adam and I tried to have a conversation last week, and I could barely finish a sentence without coughing, and I was like, no, definitely not the best time to talk about this. So. Last week, Adam, just give us a little summary about, the positional leadership again.
Yeah, for sure. I talked about a few things on positional leaders. I talked about the advantages. What is it? You are given a chance to lead when you are a positional leader. So you should see that as an opportunity. And I talked about what is actually. And I say that leadership should be associated directly with the verb to lead, rather than the noun leadership, because leadership is action. You are constantly taking actions. So we had a conversation. I discussed a little bit about that. I talked about characters of a leader, about values. I talked about personal development and leadership. And a few things in those lines. Other things that were very crucial is just how do you? I started introducing the transition from being a positional leader to actually starting to lead people by permission. And this is today's episode. To just summarize, I talk extensively how to assume the position of leadership and changing the identity not identifying yourself as, okay, since I've been placed here, now I am a leader. I'm supposed to pick things up and just look down on people or be bossy or so on. I talked about what are the characters. I gave a few examples. I talked about Jesus. I talked about leadership being influenced, and leaders not leaving people behind. Leaders should go reach out to the people left behind and so on. So I talked about characters of leadership. I talked about values in leadership. I talked about personal growth in leadership. And now we are transitioning into actually you can lead people until you like people with mission of people giving you a chance to lead them.
And this is very, very interesting transition that we're making. I think one of the most important things that John Maxwell mentions, and Adam talked about it last week as well, is a positional leadership is just an invitation. It's someone who sees potential in you, a potential to lead people, to bring people together, to take people somewhere. But what's most important, you shouldn't stay on the positional level. John Maxwell mentioned something. He said that the lower the level is, the more downside they are to that level. You'll see that as we're going up the levels, there'll be more upside to a level than downsides as compared to the positional level. The other difficulty, again, with positional leaders, with leaders in general, and I think that's one mistake that is made constantly in corporate, simply promoting someone because they're hardworking into a position of leadership. Leadership should hard work itself is not enough to define a person as a leader. I've seen some very hardworking engineer that will make terrible managers. Some very hardworking and smart, workers on the line that will make terrible managers. Leadership is potential, and this is for the people who are up there, who have an opportunity to put other people into leadership, to always consider not only how hard the person is working, but as this person has the ability to lead other people, as this person have the ability to take people from one place to another, provide direction, but also be a great leader. And one mistake, again, another mistake that a lot of positional leaders make is the desire to jump from position to production. We always fighting into we judge the leader by how much they produce, right? We look at the numbers and say, okay, this is a great leader. The problem I've seen with that approach is that every time that leader steps away from his leadership position, numbers seem to tumble. Or every time people have an opportunity to screw up the leader, if the leader did something and people did not approve of him, it's much easier to get rid of that leader than to get rid of a relational leader, permissional leader, or rather. And we see as we're talking about this that you need both position and permission to move into proper production. And I'm using the word proper carefully here, because you can be a very productive leader, but who's not liked by his people. And the little opportunity that people have to screw you up, they will do it. As a matter of fact, one of the quotes here, and I'm probably just going to paraphrase it, it says that if you step on people's fingers on your way up, when you come down, they trip you. They'll literally pull your legs so that something bad happens to you. And we want to move from that, I am the leader. As a matter of fact, John Maxwell says in another book that if you keep on reminding people that you are the leader, you're probably not. You're probably not. You're probably the boss. You probably sign somebody's check, but you're probably not the leader. And John Maxwell gives some steps, as Adam was mentioning, on how we move now from position to permission. The permission level, to me, that's just my own opinion. To me, that's where leadership starts. That's where you learn how to relate to people. That's when you learn how you really are moving people from one place to another.
Yes, and again, we're gonna just directly jump into the chapter, into the power of permission. You can't lead people until you like people, and that's where relationship becomes important, because the leader begins to influence people with relationship, not just position. Building relationship, as John Maxwell say, develops a foundation for effectively leading others. it also starts to break down organizational silos, like these little groups that get created in an organization, because this is the time when you create connection. Now think about it, and I don't want to drag this too much into dating relationship or so on, but think about that person that's you want to be a part of their life, and they want to be a part of your life. The things that it takes, the attention to details, attention to changes in their life, attention to their dynamic. So leadership, and now if you take this at the level of like professional level, at the organizational level, relationships, they go above everything. Back in Congo, we used to say relationship in Africa is what takes you everywhere. Actually,
Yeah.
You can have anything you have in life. People say in Lingala that don't have money, but have relationships,
People. Yeah.
have connections, because we come from such a community-based place where the whole country is like a small village, where people are so well connected together to a point where those connections can be leveraged to actually to bring promotion, for you to help, for you to sell goods. It doesn't matter, actually, John Maxwell even mentioned it here. It doesn't matter like where, like how good of a quality your product is, but it matters the relationship that you have. So relationship is more powerful than quality.
Agreed.
It's more powerful than service. It's more powerful than price. Relationship is the most essential thing about being a human, because that is what brings you from I to we. It teaches you humility. It teaches you empathy. It teaches you how to deal with people directly, and it promotes you as a leader.
And as I say, all things. One thing I've noticed myself in corporate America, all things being equal, I'd rather work for someone that I like over someone that I do not like.
Yeah.
And all things being equal, a leadership is not about being likable. It's not about it's not about holding shoulders and singing kumbaya all the time. No, but all things being equal, people rather work with people they like rather than people that they do not like. So relationships are important. And here are some upsides of the permission level. John Maxwell said that leadership permission makes your work more enjoyable. I I've been working as a volunteer in my church for over 10 years now, and I work with a lot of volunteers. Sometimes, and I like the nonprofit approach, because your position doesn't matter in nonprofits. It's close to non-existent. You are there, people work with you because people want to work with you. People give you the permission to lead them. And the more you build relationship with people, not just as expendable, things that you can get rid of or lay off any single time, it actually makes work more enjoyable. Yes, I'm doing my work. Yes, I'm producing numbers, but I'm also enjoying being along with you. I read something on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, or maybe a year ago. So it says that people do not quit their jobs. Most of the time, people quit people. It's not that I hate my job. No, it's just that I cannot stand working with this person.
Yeah.
And
I think John C. Maxwell mentions it too. He say that people quit people. It's a quote, one of the quotes also that he say there as I was reviewing today.
Right. Say people quit people because I'd rather work with someone who respects me and treats me as a person over someone who treats me as a slave or as an errand boy. That's why corporate leaders, it's important before you promote someone. Does the person have the potential leadership in him? Or has the person learned how to lead on a permission level? And every time you go into any organization, you start again. As we said, you start at zero. And you always have to build that. So one of the advantages is that permission makes work more enjoyable.
Absolutely. And let's talk about it a little bit more, that whenever you develop those relationships, the relationship and the people you win, whenever you are bringing people together with all the interaction, instead of using uh, your power, at that time, people want to be there. He talked about a few things in position. He talked about clock watchers, people who are, you have clock watchers, people who look at the time all the time, like, is it 5 p.m. already? Is it, uh, what time is it? Because they really want to get out. They really want to exit out of all of this. And the opposite of that, you get it when you have permission to lead.
Mm.
And that's the advantage that he's saying here in the leadership permission makes, as he say, makes work more enjoyable. At the second, a leadership permission increases the energy level. And this is just clear. When you work with people you like, it's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe. And as John C. Maxwell also he mentioned, I believe in the book, he's talking about that this is not about like treats, like have a work family, as
Right.
people say, quote unquote. Yeah, this is my work family and so on. No, it's not about treating people in your organization like your family, because in the way deeper connections that make you be like a family. But that cohesion in the people in an organization, it creates a certain type of energy. So good relationship creates energy, and they give people's into a positive tone. It's like, yeah, you are laughing, you are interacting with each other, you are used to each other at a certain level, to a point where when something is wrong, you know that. And when something, whenever something positive comes up, you know that. You know something's going well in somebody's life. And that's, it creates a certain type of atmosphere. And that's completely just increase the energy to lead.
Absolutely. And on the third point here, the third advantage of the upside of the permission, John Maxwell talks about leadership permission opens up channels for communication. Now, there's a lot of notes I wrote on this one, because this is what I believe. John Maxwell says that leadership rises and falls on, well, everything rises and falls on leadership. I personally believe that leadership rises and falls on communication. If you're a leader who cannot communicate with his people, if you're a leader who cannot clearly say what you want or where you're taking people on the vision, on the journey, you will always have more issues than a leader who can clearly state the vision, the mission, and the communication. Just people who can, that people that you can tell, I know exactly where we're going. I know what it means for me to be productive. You know, like some leaders in companies will say, I want you all to be productive. What does it mean to be productive? You know, and sometimes it's hard for people when they do not know what exactly are your expectations to follow your lead. And as a matter of fact, I think Solomon talks about it in the book of Proverbs. He said that if a trumpet is blown and people do not know the sound of the trumpet, what action would they take? Would they march forward or would they march backward? Would they retreat or would they go to war? Because if they cannot distinguish the sound of the trumpet, how would they move forward? And I feel it's the same way with leaders. If people cannot clearly understand what you mean, but when you give an instruction or when you do something, how will they be able to move? John Maxwell talks about a few things here. So on permission level, leaders listen to their people and their people listen to them. Now, there's something interesting here I want to talk about. John Maxwell says that leader must learn to listen on level 2. He said listening means ears, I hear what you say. Eyes, I see what you say. Heart, I feel what you say. And also an undivided attention, I value you for who you are and what you say. A few years ago, when I first read this book, I believe in 2018 or something, when he talked about listening, something clicked in my mind. I was like, I think 80% of communication should be listening. listening to what the other person is saying. But in our society, is quite the opposite. It's like most of the times when we're communicating, we are just waiting for our turn to speak. It's not. I'm not even listening to what you're saying. I'm just waiting for you to be quiet so that I can start speaking. And a lot of conflicts are born out of just I didn't hear what you're saying or I didn't listen closely to what you're saying. And in marriage, is even more prevalent, where people is like, why are you guys fighting? You know, Adam, my dad used to tell us this joke. He said, you'll see in a household, a father and a mother are sitting with their kids. They're watching TV, relating to Africa. He said, and then you
Mm-hmm.
see a little mouse walking into the house. The father says the mouse went to the left. The mother says he went to the right. And the source of conflict is right there. And then
Right.
the father says, well, you never listen to me. The mother says, well, you're a dictator. Because of a little right, the whole atmosphere is blown out. Why? Because so many times there are so many issues in our heart. We don't speak them out. And when we speak them out, we are hearing it's like someone is telling you, I can't come to work because I'm stressed. And how sometimes when you have judgment behind your head, all you hear is like, you're lazy, you don't want to work.
Yeah.
And the person can be really like, hey, it's because of attitudes like this that I'm not willing to come. And I'll let Adam say something, and then I'll give a little acronym I created a few years ago on listening. What does it mean to listen?
Yeah, listening is the key. I think Will Wise, in As Powerful Question, creates conversation that matter. He extensively talks listening when you are building relationships. And to me, I think that's it's one of my biggest challenges that I had, just because whenever I used to portray myself, at least at growing up, and for so many years, people who know me, a lot of people have criticized me and given me like a lot of constructive criticism when it comes to listening. I had a it's something that's continuously challenged my growth on, and especially after reading Will Wise, I started getting better at listening. Will Wise said that we listen way faster
Mhm.
than we can talk.
Mhm.
We have 2 ears, but we have only one mouth,
Mhm.
which means we can listen way more than we can talk. And he, after reading him, I started going on a path, challenging myself
Mhm.
to actually be tolerant.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've seen my growth into in leadership
Mhm.
is listening. It's something that I needed so much work on.
Mhm.
I was not a very patient person. I'm a person of tons of ideas. I naturally they just come to me,
Mhm.
and when somebody says something, before they are done talking,
Mhm.
my mind is not there. My mind has taken what they said,
Mhm.
put a picture on it. I have, opened up the picture on my mind and I've changed it in multiple different ways.
Mhm.
So the only thing that's I am waiting for is for them to be done talking
So you can
so
start
I
telling
can
them.
show them the picture. I can show them how amazing I
Mhm.
can turn
Mhm.
their idea
Mhm.
or their thought process. And a lot of time, I will tell you, I've missed so many chances. And when I'm a leader, when I'm the one who is making all the decisions,
Mhm.
at least most of the decisions, and people have to follow me, what would happen is they wouldn't they wouldn't want to insist on their points.
Mhm.
They would go ahead and embark on my newly
Mhm.
found idea,
Mhm.
and also they would actually even be convinced that is the way that they were thinking,
Mhm.
just because my views will easily become popular,
Mhm.
because people who are there, they're there because I'm leading them.
Mhm.
So whenever somebody gives an idea and I pick up on that idea, instead of listening exactly and letting them really elaborate and open it up,
Mhm.
of course, without monopolizing the word,
Mhm.
instead of listening to them completely, I tend to just take the idea, extrapolate it my own way, and send it back to them, and back to the organization and the entire crew. At the end, they like, oh yeah, this is pretty much what I meant, but it's not exactly what they meant. So
Agreed.
one thing that I've been really working on for the last a year now, since I read, it's been a year.
It's been a year.
Time
That
goes,
crazy?
time goes really
It really
fast.
goes for it.
Yeah, so it's been a year since I became very intentional on looking, especially on building better relationships and healthier relationships. So this is this listening is a key to leadership. And back home, actually, there's so many African proverbs that I can say that are pertaining to listening. And like you listen more than you talk, and that's actually even in the Bible. It's a sign of wisdom. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of the funniest proverbs of Solomon, it says that even a fool can be counted among the wise when he keeps his mouth shut. And every time I read that, it makes me laugh. I say, okay, so you walk into a room and there's a bunch of people that are really crazy, but they're all quiet and they're all dressed up. You can't tell the doctor from the patient if all of them are quiet. I think I learned my first lesson of listening from one of my first mentors and leaders. We were in a meeting, 2007. I just became a newly converted Christian, and we sat down. We were discussing. We were planning an event, and as ideas were bouncing back and forth, I remember this guy's name is Trésor. Trésor would literally ask everybody to keep quiet, to listen to one person, and let them talk about the ideas, even when he knew that the ideas were not the smartest in the room or the ideas were not the best. He would still have everybody keep quiet and listen to one person. And I remember the feeling when I was about to say something and then someone interrupted me, and then I was like, let it go. You know, I'm an easygoing person. I don't like to fight. If you want to have it. You know, let's just move on with life. The best idea wins, everybody wins, everybody's happy. And then it was like, no, Mark, I want you to say what you wanted to say. I was like, yeah, it's not important. Whatever this guy's about to say is probably more important. He was like, no. I want you to say what you have to say. And funny enough, you know, I spoke for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I was like, yeah, I told you it was not a good idea. And then I was like, no. I think actually this is what we've been missing. And the way it made me feel that someone would just pause and listen to me. You know, African parents, it's when we grow up that they listen more. As kids, you don't really have a say. You know, they tell you what to do, how to do it. We don't really do a great job at listening to our own kids. But having someone pausing and listening to me taught me a lot of things about just the way I felt. I was like, man, from this time on, every time I lead, I'll make sure that people speak their minds. And I started stepping into positional leadership. I always came with the idea of like, oh, I know I have a vision. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to work with things. But then as I started growing more into leadership, I was like, this quote by Steve Jobs actually changed also my thinking. Steve Jobs said, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire them so they can tell us what to do. Because if we are telling them what to do, then we can hire anybody on the street and tell them what to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
But if we hire them because we believe they're smart and they're bringing some ideas to the table, and Adam probably has known me for a few months now, or maybe a year or so, and he knows that I'm always like, hey, maybe my idea is good, but it's not the best. Let's discuss. And if you think this idea sucks, let's go with another idea. And sometimes it takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of courage to sit down and see your idea being shut down. But everybody's like, Mark, I don't know what you were thinking when you came up with that idea, but that's a terrible idea. So here's my acronym for listening. The first thing is love. L. Listen with love. You know, when you love someone and they're talking to you, you are less prone to judge the person because of their skin color or because of their educational background or because of their tribe or whatever country they come from. The second thing is listen with intentionality. I for intentionality. You need to listen with intentions. You listen not just because you're waiting for not just because you're being respectful, not just because sometimes you're listening to someone and in your head you're like, okay, that's not smart. And you already wrote out everything the person is saying,
Yeah.
just waiting for an opportunity to speak. But when you decide to listen with intentions, you don't only listen to the words, you listen to the ideas behind the words. You listen to the feelings behind the words, behind whatever a person may be saying. The third one, which I like, listen silently. You can nod for approval. You can nod to show that you following up with the person. But don't keep on interrupting the person. And it's funny because we always say, I'm sorry for interrupting you. You already did, right? you say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you did interrupt me. And the same words that I used to spell the word listen are the same letters that I used to spell the word silent. So listen is pretty much silent. If you're
Yeah.
listening, you're silent. And then for the T, I went with time. Give time when you're listening to someone. If you're in a hurry, reschedule the meeting. Tell the person, can we meet at a later time where I can give you my fully devoted attention? And then the E, listen with enthusiasm. Have you ever told someone an idea and the person was excited, literally on the edge of their
Yeah.
chair? Like,
Yeah.
come on,
One of my
what are you
mentor,
talking
he's
about?
like that.
And it's always a
Yeah.
good
It's
feeling.
the best.
It makes you feel good. It's like, oh my God, am I saying something
Yeah.
that's really good? I mean, I preach every now and then, and sometimes when you're preaching and then you say something, you see people standing up and clapping. It's like, okay, what did I say? That was, and it gives you the motivation to keep on going. And the last one, the N, goes for neutrality. Listen with a neutral mind. Listen without preconceived judgment, without preconceived notions. Sometimes, like in the Bible, this story they talk about Jesus, they say, well, there's a prophet from Bethlehem. And then this guy asked, have you ever seen anything good out of Bethlehem? And so many times it's like, okay, someone tells you something's like, bro, where you from? From Detroit. It's like, okay, yeah, you're from Detroit. That makes sense. And we always have these preconceived notions. And I see that again. I was reading this book by Chris Moreland. We hope to have him on the podcast. Or if we don't have him, we still review his book. Attraction to Blindness. He was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's funny how we all have our preconceived notions about certain races, about certain people, about certain things. It's just like you look at someone and the first thing in your head is like, oh, he's Indian. What is he doing? Is he in med school or is he a developer? We are so narrowed in our way of thinking that you can't even think like, okay, he's an Indian. He can be a psychologist. Or it can be, an architect. No, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
he's either doctor or something else. You look most of our Asian friends on campus. You look at an Asian, in your head is like, yeah, he's probably doing something with math or something like that. And we all have all these preconceived notions about people. But when we listen with a neutral mind, you listen to what the person is saying. You're not listening to their background. You're not listening to their skin color. You're not listening to their ethnicity, but you're listening to what they're saying. So listen with love, intentionality, listen in silence, give your time, listen enthusiastically, and then listen with neutrality.
That was really good. That was a really good point there. And I learned a lot from the statement that you made. Just adding a little bit, um, maybe a little bit just of a tweak there is also listening with empathy. Listening by putting yourself in his shoes or her shoes, knowing that what they are going through. I think one thing I might have mentioned in the last podcast, I think I was having a mentoring session, and I was talking to somebody about empathy. One thing that is true is that we are all human. We have all. I was talking to my brother actually, and we were talking about. It was just a mentoring time that I was having, and we were discussing mostly about why was the Bible written by multiple people instead of just a lived experience of one person? Because there is nothing new under the sun. We have all, for generations, for years. That's why wisdom from Socrates is still valid today. Aristotle's knowledge is still valid. Why? Because we are all sharing one thing together, humanity, being human. So we have so much stuff we can relate to. So whenever we are listening, listen with empathy. Put yourself always in the other person's shoes, and you will see that you'll be an effective person. It would really skyrocket your leadership. That is something, when I started understanding that, actually, it made my leadership within the organization better, where I'm just, if that was me in the same position, how would I handle that? How to move forward, leadership permission focuses on the value of each person. Something is important here. You can care for people without leading them, but you cannot lead them effectively beyond level 1 without caring for them. You have to care for people. You have to like people. You have to value the people. And by valuing the person, I will also going to go back again into empathy, into listening, because all of these things are so linked up. You cannot value a person whose story you don't know.
That's right.
One thing that I love about America and is it's not true everywhere else in the world. And that's why fighting racism and discrimination everywhere else is such a big deal compared to America. In America, of course, this challenge is still there. It's a huge challenge. But America, it's a conversation people are having, and there's some progress that are being shown in that conversation. And that is really great compared to other countries where that diversity is not there.
It's not there.
In this case here, when you are to value people, you have to know them. To value the other race, you have to go to look at their experience, what they've been through. Talk to them, listen to them, like them, in fact, care for them. So whenever you are leading a multi-interracial team, this is now the time where you become very narrow-minded, where you don't listen, when you don't care about lived experiences throughout the organization. He says something else here, and I believe he was quoting a book read by somebody who wrote about Nelson Mandela. His name is Peter.
Right.
Peter wrote a book about Nelson Mandela, and he was going to meet President Mandela, and he had a corporation, the corporation he works for gave him a car and the driver. And they got to Mandela's house, and Mandela went to meet them at the parking. First, that was amazing for any African president whatsoever.
You tell me about
meeting.
it.
That's exceptional.
Right.
For an African president to actually meet you at the parking lot. He did that. He asked, like, who's the other person? He said, like, oh yeah, this is a driver. Okay, so they went to the house, but before having breakfast, he actually knew the name of the driver even. Like, Dumi. Like, okay, is Dumi joining us too? He's like, oh no, he's just in the car. I was like, okay, no. He sent somebody, okay, go call Dumi. So he can be on the table here. And something I learned, this was one of my favorite moments of this book. Something he say here, something Mandela said, and they say he observed, you see, when there is a danger, a good leader takes the front line. But when there is celebration, a good leader stays in the back of the room,
right?
In the back room. And this he's trying to show the value that he's adding to that group. He's trying to show the value that is adding to even the person that is if like abandoned, I could say. Drivers, they don't value them as much.
Yes.
It's just a guy who takes you from point A to point B. Well, who cares? But a driver having breakfast with the president,
Mm.
he will never forget that
Mhm.
his entire life.
Yeah.
Every morning, his job just got a purpose.
Yeah. Great.
Every morning, he'll be telling his kids, he'll be proud, he'll be happy about it. And it will be a part of, it will set you as a leader
Mm.
to win that confidence
Mhm.
among them, to win that um, level of trust and the connection you can have
Mm.
with those people.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. I think that was one of the stories in the book that almost brought me to tears as well. You know, I thought again and again about it if I was the driver and I was going to drive someone to Nelson Mandela's residency and come back to tell them I just had breakfast with Nelson Mandela. That'll probably make up my whole,
That's your whole life.
that's your whole life. You go
Yeah.
back to the driver and say, hey, yo, I had dinner with Nelson Mandela. And which brings another point, Adam, I want to mention. Every time you're in a position of leadership or in a position of power, a position of influence, find something you can do for someone who might never be able to repay you. Find something good you can do
That's a
for
very good
someone.
point.
You know, and sometimes we take for granted the little things, like shaking people's hands, calling people by their names. There's this gentleman here in Dallas. He's an MC. It's probably one of the best that we have around here in the African or Congolese community. His name is Franklin Katunda. One thing I've noticed with Franklin, every time that I've worked with him, or every time I've observed him doing the MC, he goes to almost everybody he meets and asks them, what is your name? It takes time to remember their names, to say the way they want their names to be said. And throughout the night, I'll see Franklin walking around and going like, hey, Osei, did you finish up with that thing? And I'm going like, how do you know him? Did you guys meet before? And funny enough, you see him in multiple parties, making up connection, greeting out people. Why? Because it's understood that little things like that that are valuable to people make a huge difference. Every time someone tries to say, I have a French name, my name is Marcana. Every time someone, an American person, tries to say my name correctly, I always tell people who want to become a professor, every person who calls my name correctly gets extra credit.
Yeah, there is actually Will Wise when he's talking about effective communication and he's talking about public speaking. He said one thing for sure, and I've used this technique. It has made my public speaking better.
Mm-hmm.
He said when you're about to speak in public, come early.
Mm-hmm.
Be at the front
Mm-hmm.
or be at the door. Greet every single person and ask for their name. And try to remember at least one special thing about them. And I think John C. Maxwell also talks about it. I think one of the I think it was 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth when he's talking about when he went, I think in Ukraine or I believe in one of the Middle Eastern countries, and he was supposed to speak and he had to get to know people before he can serve them.
Right.
And Will Wise talks about it. Say, greet everyone, know their names. It makes public speaking way easier.
Agree.
Because when you are speaking to people, you speak to people you know. You are not speaking to a strange crowd.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that makes communication very easy. And to just wrap up that story of Nelson Mandela, there is something here that Peter, whom John C. Maxwell is quoting, said. He said, when leaders learn to see the personalities that lie behind these seemingly humble titles, drivers, guards, and servants, the people in those jobs do not just feel appreciated. They discover and walk into new horizons of their lives. They become great performers at what they do. They find personal fulfillment. This, to me, it's a highlight. Treating people well. The janitors. I work where you're working every day. If you are the manager, you are the CEO, you are the boss, and you know the janitor. There's a TV show. It's a new TV show. I think it's called New Amsterdam.
Yeah,
I
I
started
watched that.
watching it. I was
I got after
binge
season 2, I
watching.
gave up. I was like, this is too
Yeah.
addictive. I can't do this anymore.
So the thing is, I'm learning a lot of leadership lessons there.
About Max,
We
yeah.
just after like I think after season 2 start becoming a little bit more repetitive, and the stories
Yeah.
you can start predicting everything, and it's in my opinion, this is just my opinion. It's just uninteresting. But the beginning, the way of leadership. Of course, one thing that he did not do correctly
Mhm.
is his own personal growth
Right.
and taking care of his own self.
Yes.
That is one thing that's in leadership. You have to take care of you for everyone else.
Yes.
That's the only way. If you are not there, if you are dead,
Mhm.
nobody gonna be leading them, or somebody else gonna take it over, and you're gonna be a big loss on you.
Agreed.
But something that he shows at the very, very beginning of the show. This is episode number 1.
Mm.
Max Goodwin, who's the character here,
Mhm.
the show starts with him talking to the janitors.
Mm.
And talking with them. They speak Spanish, the janitors, and he's fluent in Spanish.
Mhm.
He completely blends in with the janitors.
Mhm.
He knows all their problems, all their challenges, what they need change. And then, they just found out later that, that guy there, he is I guess, the CEO of this hospital. He's the boss. Yeah. So it's, and they never, throughout the show, you see how the janitors serve him with a lot of purpose, with somebody they can really relate to. And this is so, to me, it's very necessary.
It is necessary
when you're leading to know them. The other thing that he mentioned here is say that your goal should be to become aware of the uniqueness of people and learn to appreciate their differences. It doesn't matter. As I said earlier, that one thing that we all share in common, we share the fact that we are human. And human, of course, we all are human, but we have our particularity that make each one of us stand out. It doesn't matter your social status. It doesn't matter your job, what you do on a daily basis. But there's something that makes you special in particular. And as a leader, if you're trying to create a connection with the people you are leading, find out what is that one thing that stands out about their life.
Agreed.
And once you figure that out, they will let you lead them. They'll give you permission. You can have the influence in their life.
Adam, there is this story. We got about 12 minutes at the top of the hour here, and we try to wrap this up. There's this story about Napoleon Bonaparte that I read as well in in John Maxwell's books. He said that Napoleon had a keen thing about remembering people's names. He said before a battle, he would go to his soldiers and greet them, and they'll always be surprised about the fact that not only he remembered their names, he also remembered the stories they told him. Of course, that's an ability that you can learn and develop. Not saying that everybody should do that, but you know how profound it is when you've seen Adam once in your life, and the next time you see him, he's like, "Hey, you told me your brother Goel was going to med school. How is that going? You told me that your father moved to Lubumbashi, and this person has probably seen you once in life. You know how much connection that creates with people, and I always encourage people, if you're having hard time to become a relational leader, every time you meet people, do 2 things: try to remember their names, and sometimes little questions like, why Adam? Why is your name Adam? Who gave you the name? What does it mean? Do you know the meaning? Try to remember that. But also, when you talk, ask more questions than talk about your story. Listen, yes, we all have interesting stories. But trust me, everybody in the world that I've met is more interested in telling their stories than in listening to yours.
Yeah.
This is just what I've observed with people. And every time I meet people, I try to be the person who's going to know the most about this person. I want to know how they got to where they got. I want to know what's their family, how many siblings they have. I want to know about their parents. Plamedy, as a matter of fact, before we got married, they had a way her and her sister used to describe me in their house. They say that brother that asked too many questions, and it just helped us me. I found out that it helps me to connect with people when I know their story. And the very last
Yeah.
point, go ahead.
No. I actually wanted to share
Yeah,
a
go
little
ahead.
bit about your story because I just used it recently when I was just having a session where I was helping somebody with just their leadership, just giving a few pointers there. They're trying to lead. And I used one of the stories that you told me. Mark told me that whenever he got married, there are so many presents, so many gifts, and so on. And then I asked him how, like, you're just like the most loved guy in the whole community and whatever. But he said one thing. He said that the little stuff that we do, the basic stuff like remembering people's kids' name, and like, yeah, you have a fifth grader, right? Her name is like Nicole. How is Nicole doing? Like, her school is going fine and stuff. It's not that, as I was telling the person, it's not that Mark officially knew that person's life or has even hang out with them. But just for the fact that Mark had spent, at least has just paid attention to some of the stuff that everybody else is not paying attention to, created a certain connection. The person felt a sense of belonging. We all, one thing we also again share in common is that we all want to belong.
Yep.
We all want to feel a part. And if you're in a position of leadership and you are making people feel a part, yeah, at the end when you're getting married, everybody want to bring something because it's not just this is our person. Like, it's the people take the wedding in their hands. It becomes our wedding, and it becomes a family business rather than just an individual thing.
Thanks for sharing that, Adam. I truly appreciate that. So the very last thing that John Maxwell says here: permission nurtures trust. A relationship is built on trust, and the day you lose trust in relationship, that's the day you lose the relationship. And this is why I encourage people who aspire to leadership, or all the leaders who are already in leadership position, be trustworthy. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't say one thing in front of me and say something else in my back. No. And be open. And that's sometimes the danger as well of a permissional leadership, which we dive run into when I start talking about because permissional leadership, the reality is that it has been perceived in America, corporate America, all around the world, as weak leadership, especially for people that come from the army. They feel like if you relate to people and you talk to them, then you're a weak leader. But we talk about that more when we move from permission to production. Yes, sometimes you get lost into the relationship that you forget the work that still needs to be done. There's still some deliverables that need to be made, and we can laugh, we can talk, but when you need to produce, you need to produce. That's just the reality. So the first thing that John Maxwell talks about here, the first downside of a positional leadership, he said that some people perceive it to be too soft.
Yeah, and just before we go there, I just wanted to emphasize again here, because John Maxwell's in a lot of his books, he focused so much on nurturing trust. In fact, he make that a law of leadership, creating, he called it the law of solid ground. And that is what is trust is. Trust is the solid ground. Trust is the foundation of permission. So he say that if you have integrity with people, you develop trust. The more trust you develop, the stronger the relationship becomes. The better the relationship, the greater the potential for a leader to gain permission to lead. It is a building process that takes time, energy, and a lot of intentionality. Trust is the foundation of every relationship. You cannot marry somebody you don't trust. You cannot love somebody you don't trust. We are, the whole world right now is celebrating love. This episode is coming out on the 14th of February. So, people are having those nice dinners and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember one thing. If you are spending your time with someone, make sure that you trust them and they do trust you.
Mm.
If you don't trust each other, there's no relationship. Same thing with leadership. You will see this syllogism that John C. Maxwell just put in a really good logic sequence over here. That's trust. It leads to successful leadership. And he calls it law of solid ground for someone who can check out his other books.
The 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Yes. There's that law of solid ground. And the law of solid ground pretty much says that everything rises and falls on trust. You can't build a leadership team if your people cannot trust you. And now, still talking about the downside, thanks Adam for bringing that point. I think it was very crucial to insist a little bit on that. Is that we say that leadership permission appears too soft to people. Here's the reality about permission. Adam and I have grown closer as friends, right? And sometimes it's hard to tell harsh truth. Sometimes, if Adam is coming next to me and for example, I have something in my teeth, Adam may not be at the freedom to tell me that. Or even sometimes as we work with Unbounded Growth, I may be slacking or doing something that I'm not supposed to do. You know how hard it is sometimes to get to that point to tell the person, what you're doing is not right. And that's where trust and building a solid relationship is important. Because everything Adam tells me or everything I tell him at this point in our lives, I know he's coming from the right place. I know he's not saying that to me to put me down. I know he's not trying to dismiss me or he's not trying to disrespect me or anything. I know from his heart he loves me. So anything that comes out of him won't hurt me as much as it would if it came out of someone else. So sometimes it looks soft, but when you've built a solid relationship with a person to an extent where it's like, yeah, I love you, but here's the truth. What you're doing is not right, and I want you to improve. And the only reason why I'm telling you this is because I want you to improve. The second thing that John Maxwell talks about here, and Adam, you can add some comment on that as I go to the second point here. Leading by permission can be frustrating for achievers. You tell me about it.
Yeah. Whenever you're a person who is very productive, at least for yourself, you don't want to rely on other people.
That's right.
Actually, there's a quote. I think it's either Abraham Lincoln or somebody. I don't remember exactly who said. He said that if you want something well done, do it yourself. I used to be a crazy believer. I was not such a great guy with like group projects in school.
Neither was I. Yeah.
I was not because those stuff slow you down. And of course, at that time, I just want to get out of school. I'm not thinking about leadership. I'm not thinking about anything. I just want to graduate, get out of here.
That's right.
So, but funny thing is just I would still end up being the natural guy who just has to make sure the work is like organizing things for people, who's doing what. I'll end up becoming that. But at the same time, I just don't want to be there. I'm like, give me, like, a lot of the assignments in school, I did them myself. I was like, yeah, I can get it done. I'm going to put your name. Don't worry. I'll put your name on it. You don't have to actually have a bunch of classes I passed like that. Some people become such great friends of mine because I did that. They're like, well, they don't have to do any part of it. It's just, so that is just the point that you said, soft there. It's about being a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I was one of the best ones. Actually, I think a little part of me is still that way, but I'm now learning to giving people the straight answer. I am learning to say no. I'm a type of person that I was just like, what could go wrong? That's what I ask myself all the time. Like, and if I do it, and like, what am I losing for doing it? If the answer is okay, it's not costing me my hand, or it's not costing me like $1,000 that I don't have right now, then why do I not do it?
Hey, you remember how
But
we found ourselves in too many engagements? It's like, okay, we have A, B, C. This like,
yeah.
do I even have time to sleep after saying yes to too many people?
Exactly. So I am I used to be really a people pleaser. I would try to please people as much as I can. And actually John C. Maxwell related to here, and I'm gonna quote him. He said, my maturity made me think that good leaders always had buy-in from everyone. They didn't have to deal with conflict, and they could avoid the reality of making hard decisions. That was me. I avoided conflict in everything. Everybody who has been close enough is just like, hey, if you're gonna take it. I don't wanna fight with you. I don't wanna even have that conversation, the tough conversation. Recently I was to have a tough conversation with someone. Very, very tough one. And I had just decided to take unilateral decisions and just without even listening to their story, to what they want, what what they thought. I just took a bulk decision. It wasn't until I went to share that conversation with my brother Goel, we had the talk, and he was like, nah, it can't be like that. Come on. Call him up, call all of us, sit there and have a conversation. And then at least you won't be alone. And since they're gonna be people and people who look up to you, right, to your tone, you're gonna try to adjust everything, you're gonna try to articulate, and you can have hard conversation. It's one thing I'm still working on really hard. The other thing is, say, permissional leaders can be taken advantage of.
And I think that's very true. That's the biggest danger when you're a permissional leader, is especially just to relate to what Adam said, the part where you need to have tough conversation with people. Some people don't struggle with this. Some people don't struggle with conflict. I think some people actually they're comfortable when there's conflict. It's like when everything is working okay, it's like that they're not okay. And and as leaders, Adam, to be honest, is also one of the toughest lessons that I've had to learn as a leader. To say no with a smile, you know. I'm saying no, I'm not going to do it, but I'm still smiling at you. I'm not mad at you. To be hard without being harsh, hard in your decisions and all that. And because you realize quickly how people can start taking advantage of you if you're not careful. And a lot of people do that, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, because they know, like, Adam is there. If I ask him for something, he's going to do it for me. If I'm in trouble, Adam is going to help me, sometimes at the detriment of your own health. Adam and I, we had these conversations a few weeks ago where I was telling you I'm learning to protect my family time. When I'm spending time with my kid and I'm spending time with my wife, my phone is not even in reach. If you call me 2 hours, unless it's an emergency, but if you had your program all planned out a month ago and you just want me to be there 2 days before, I'll respectfully tell you no. Not because I don't like you, not because I'm mad at you, not because I don't want to support you or support your business or your idea, but if this time is dedicated to something else, then I'm not going to do it. Because I found myself giving too many yeses, that I'll be here talking to Adam. I'm like, I have this and this and this and this to do, and I'll go to bed at 4 a.m., be up at 7 for work. And everything I was doing was not benefiting me. And my health started suffering from it. My family started suffering from it. I was like, no, I don't think I'm being a good person. I don't think I'm helping everybody around me. And he was like, Moses, trying to judge people from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Jethro was like, you can't do this. At the end of the day, you wear yourself out, and the people that you are leading, that you're trying to help, you won't be able to help them. So, as a permissional leader, and I think we wrap up with this, we talk about some more disadvantages of permissional leaders and how we can move to protection leaders. is that
Yeah.
you need to protect yourself. Protect yourself from the people. You love people, you relate to people, you help people, but also learn to protect yourself. Don't be like Dr. Max Goodwill, who he was
Yeah.
dying in the first and second season of this series, but wanted to save the world.
Yeah, and I'm gonna wrap up this part of taking advantage. If there's one person who really felt a lot taken advantage of, it was me in college. Somebody warned me when I was like first, second year. People say like Americans will use you, but I did not know what that meant. Right? Like so many, I would just my services were free. I was so afraid to ask people for money, and we can probably discuss that in another book that we might discuss in the future, which is Business Secrets from the Bible.
Mm.
And he talked about how do you charge for your services and so on. But something I want to point out here is that when you feel like you're being taken advantage of, it's actually a very human thing to feel, and that is completely okay. And John C. Maxwell is sharing here, and this is going to go in multiple different directions because it's also going to help people who in romantic relationships and people who have been heartbroken and so on. Um, there's a quote here it was my favorite quote when I read this chapter. It says, "Being relational is a risk, just as it is when you open yourself up to falling in love. Sure, you can say you can stay guarded and never get hurt, but you will also never have the chance to have deep, rewarding relationships that will enrich your life and the lives of others. I hope you will choose to build relationships. I made that choice early in my leadership life, and though I have been hurt and I've occasionally had others take advantage of me, I don't regret it. And I feel exactly the same way as him. I don't regret it. Most people respect their relationship. The majority of people you meet, they will respect their relationship.
That's right.
Treat it the right way and add value to me. That is it goes both ways. Romantic relationship, to work relationship, friendship, anything. You feel like some people have taken advantage of you, that's okay. It's a part of the learning, it's a part of growing as a leader. But for most people you would meet, you will actually create that relationship
And
or that
long-lasting
good
relationships.
connection, and that will actually change your life.
That's right.
You add value to your life and to the life of others.
And I think that was the biggest thing that I've benefited from creating relationships with people. I always feel bad for people that say they don't have a lot of friends. I think God has really blessed me with a lot of friends and a lot of good friends. People that I can rely on, people that I can can always check up on me, people that care for me as a person. And as Adam said, it doesn't matter if you've been hurt before, or you're being hurt or taken advantage of. The benefits outweigh the bad that can come out of every relationship that you create. So next Tuesday we'll be finishing up with the permissional level as we move on to the production level, which today good leaders are considered as leaders that produce numbers. Sometimes in corporate, especially in corporate, having twisted things, we just look at the board, the KPI. The rest, we don't care as much as we should. But we finish up to we talk about the different type of peoples that can come, the different types of people that can come in your life, the takers, the developers, the acquaintances, and the friends. We also dive into how to be open as a leader on the permissional level to be effective. We also discuss about the people who are not naturally likable. They're actually, I don't know if you've met those type of people. They just seem not to be likable, But there are ways you can make yourself likable. I always believe that everything can be learned in life, and the last thing is that as a permission leader, we also learn about how when you lead on the permission level, you're not only dealing with a person, you're not only dealing with Adam, you're dealing with his background, you're dealing with his family problems, you're dealing with his relationships problem, you're dealing with his PhD problems, you're dealing with a whole person. And you cannot separate all those entities and say, I'm just going to deal with a work person, because if he's having struggles in his own family, his research may be affected. If his research is affected, the quality of his work may be affected. And we learn a little bit about, the downside of the permissional leadership, but also the things that we can do to eliminate that. But then we also learn about what are the best behaviors on the permissional leadership that you can take, adapt to move into the production leadership. And we do the same thing for the production leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with that we'll be ending today. Thank you so much for having tuned in with us, and I apologize again for my voice. I'm still recovering. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll probably see me trying to mute myself, trying to go offline so I can gently cough and all that. But I appreciate the patience. I appreciate Adam for taking over last week. I know it's cool when we're having an interaction. When you're by yourself in front of the microphone and the camera, it can get a little weird, especially when you're there for almost an hour. But yeah, I really appreciate Adam and for all the work that he's doing here on Unbounded Growth. And as he told you, we have some great stuff being planned this year, leadership conference. We tell you more details about it as they unfold. And also, we probably send up another announcement. You remember our friend Paul Ntambwe, his book is still available on Amazon. Check it out. We really encourage you to check it out. And our friend from Ghana, our Pastor Bride and his wife, they are also having a wonderful leadership conference that they organize in Ghana every year. They will give you more details. It's in April. It's for the women empowerment. Something like that in Africa, I think, is definitely needed at this point. Just helping women entrepreneurs to move out of their comfort zone and really rein into the entrepreneurship world. That's it on my side. Adam, and anything?
No, I have nothing new. I'm just very much excited for this year, for all the stuff that we have planned for Unbounded Growth. And I hope you can tune in. I hope you can keep listening to us, bring us a lot of feedback. We want to listen to you as well. So we want to see what we can do to change or to make the experience better for you. And recommend us to your friends, because if you like what we do and you encourage this, feel free to recommend us to your friend, to share our post on social media, because it goes a long way. The same values that you're getting out of this podcast, somebody else actually can also benefit from them. So do not be selfish. Leadership is not a selfish business. Mm-hmm. A leader shares. So for that, share our podcast, share with people you love, share with people around you. And this way, we can all grow together and we can all receive the benefits from it. You help me grow, I help you grow, and the chain continues until it's unbounded. It's growth without limits.
Absolutely. Shout out to all the people that have been listening, have been sharing our posts here in the United States, or in Germany, in France, in Kenya, and Ghana. To name
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Every day we are surprised when we hear a listener out there, and we are now being listened to in more than 25 countries, and we appreciate everything that you all do and continue to recommend us, and we really appreciate it. All right, with that being said, y'all have a good one. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to email us at info@theunboundedgrowth.com. Our website is www.theunboundedgrowth.com. We're on YouTube. Don't hesitate to subscribe or follow us on Instagram for more updates. We love you. God bless you, and y'all have a wonderful one. Bye-bye.